this side event on growing extremism in South Asia and its repercussions for the West, organized by United Schools International and co-sponsored by the European Foundation for South Asian Studies, also known as EFSAS. Drastic advances in technology and communication have intensified the ever-increasing pace of globalization. The mass use of internet and social media has obscured the borders of extremism and has imposed an undeniable menace to global peace. Such fractured aspects of the globalization phenomena facilitate the spread of terrorism as it assists terrorist groups to distribute their literature and enforce their views on like-minded people in other parts of the globe. The widening, deepening, and speeding up of international connectedness undeniably involves the movement of goods, services, people, ideas, and cultures across geographical borders. And although such effects are predominantly beneficial, when they are being abused and intoxicated by violent extremist outfits, the consequences might be fatal. The region of South Asia has a strategic location from regional connectivity perspective, and it has a history in terms of political integration in relation to terrorism, which inevitably has grave repercussions on the stability of the entire world. Globalization has provided increased opportunities for South Asian terrorist groups and individuals to strike across greater distances against any external actors that they perceive as enemies. Terrorist networks such as Al-Qaeda in the Indian subcontinent and ISIS have been further supported and strengthened by the failure of all states to deal effectively with the conditions within their own countries that give rise to Islamic fundamentalism. Terrorism is a complex and multifaceted phenomenon. It is a global challenge, and its threat has increased since the tragic incidents of 9/11. Since then, many nations have become severe victims of conflict and violence. In most cases, the roots of incidents of terrorism have been traced in developing economies such as Afghanistan and Pakistan. Those fundamentalist and disenfranchised segments of society use violence to counter foreign influence, often perceived as Western supremacy. The European Foundation for South Asian Studies, located in Amsterdam, is an EU-accredited, leading independent, non-profit think tank and policy research institution. EFSAS provides strategic, in-depth analysis, research, statistical data, policy advice, and forecasts related to developments in the fields of politics, international relations, conflict management, human rights, security, diplomacy, strategic affairs, and conflict resolution. The organization specifically focuses on prevention of violent extremism and radicalization and the development of counter-terrorism strategies both in South Asia and in the West through the formulation of well-informed policies which shape the public discourse in order to promote peace, security, and sustainable development. The Foundation conducts fact-gathering research of actual and potential uses of terrorism as a tactic by state and non-state actors in order to provide policy guidance to international organizations, governments, academic institutions, NGOs, and think tanks. Ultimately, EFSA's goal is to facilitate an atmosphere of reconciliation, peace, and tranquility. EFSA strongly maintains that education and acquiring unbiased objective knowledge are the best tools to fight terrorism and radicalization. Therefore, in order to fulfill its mission, EFSAS is currently granting scholarships in Jammu and Kashmir, which are meant to support and empower deserving students, vulnerable youth, and orphans who struggle to pay their fees due to financial constraints. In order to shed light on this growing phenomenon of extremism, EFSAS has invited a group of respected speakers who will further deliberate upon the links between terrorism in South Asia and the West. Dr. Paul Stott, lecturer at the University of Leicester and in the Center for International Studies and Diplomacy at SOAS, and a research fellow of EFSAS, will discuss the history of jihadism and explore the British South Asian nexus. Mr. Serge Stroobans is the European representative for the Institute for Economics and Peace, Lieutenant Colonel of the Belgian Armed Forces, Professor at the Royal Military Academy in Brussels, and Senior Associate at the European Institute for Asian Studies. He will talk about what strategies NATO and the EU have adopted in order to tackle the issues of terrorism in South Asia and the West. Mr. Martin Bouwhuis, a researcher and lecturer at the Criminal Law and Criminology Department of the VU University in Amsterdam and fellow of the Center for International Criminal Justice, will explore the nexus between asylum, immigration, and jihadism in South Asia and Europe. And Mr. Junaid Qureshi, a Kashmiri writer, columnist, and director of the European Foundation for South Asian Studies, will examine the subject of Pan-Islamism and the radicalization of youth in Jammu and Kashmir. Through assembling a group of experts who will tackle the issue through various perspectives, we would like to foster and improve the level of international understanding and knowledge on the alarming danger of growing extremism in South Asia and its repercussions for the West. Finally, I would like to emphasize that we have invited the respective speakers to present their viewpoints, and that the views expressed might not necessarily fully coincide with the views held by EFSAS. Thank you. Now I would like to give the stage to Mr. Martin Bouwhuis. You have the word.